Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Now, you may remember we had Dean from Buxton on the other day. Can't remember exactly what I said. I think it was something like I've been taken out of... they came for me in the middle of the night, something like that. And we heard the terrible story of poor Dean, where he was sent to court and they kept shoving him down below. But he is an honourable man and he wasn't putting up with any of that and playing their little shenanigans, their silly games. And I know that he said that he had managed to, the things that he would say at the door to the court, he had refined it now into something different. And people have been emailing me saying, Richard, what did he say? What does he say? And I said, I don't know. He didn't tell me. We've all got to wait. Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, Dean from Buxton, our honourable man, is here again. Hello, Dean.
Hi, Richard. How are you?
I'm very well. I'd just like to apologise to the audience if they get a little bit sidetracked by my neon sign behind me flashing up. It's not intentional. I think there's solar flares or there's a weird energy going on. The vibes from Vobes is what it is. So don't worry if you keep seeing that. Dean, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm still living the dream.
Excellent. You've not been down in any more basements underneath the courtrooms or anything?
No, not as of yet. No.
Fantastic. Oh, well, I'm very thrilled to know that. And people seem to have enjoyed our first encounter there with all of that. So this is effectively part 3 because you came to my kitchen the first time that we saw you. The last time we saw you recently, of course, you were in the car as you are now. And apparently it's a lovely day up where you are. It's wet and miserable down here, but that hasn't stopped us getting together to find out the next part of what it is that you wish to tell us.
Yeah, so just to very, very briefly touch on the first video in case anyone didn't see it, but if we could have a link, that would be great. So
Yeah.
we spoke very briefly about common law and the fact that it is 2 types of common law, meaning the English common law and then the Anglo-Saxon part of the trial by jury common law. We then touched on the William Penn trial, which was key to establishing the fact that a trial by jury could not only judge the facts, but they could judge the law as well. We touched on the fact that there is 2 types of trial, i.e. a jury trial and trial by jury. We touched on the fact that the magistrate's hands are tied and the only way that you can get a fair trial is via your fellow man and woman, is because even though they swear an oath, they can't be held to it. So that was basically a rundown of the first video if people haven't seen it already. So I'd like to move on to why it's a good idea and what the benefits are of having a trial by jury. Because it's not really very well known. You'd be like, well, why would I have a trial by jury? So let's first, before we move on to that, let's talk initially just about consent. Because obviously when you require a trial by jury, you are consenting to it. So consent is a massive part of the law. So if I just ask you a simple question, if you could just, don't be too complex about the answer, but give me a basic answer. Are people, is a society allowed to live peacefully and basically not be hassled or bothered by other people or the members of a different society, perhaps?
I would argue that they are being hassled. And you're saying whether they're allowed to. I think because they are under the jurisdiction
do they
of
have
the
the right?
government. Well,
So do they have the right? Do a set of people have the right to live in peace and not be basically robbed or attacked or murdered by, let's say, another group of people or an individual?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so they have the right to basically form their own rules, their own laws.
Yes,
is what I'm trying to get at. So it's reasonable and fair to state that people have the right to formulate their own laws. So that's this is where I'm going with the consent part of it.
Hmm.
So some people will say that one particular law is higher than another. Now, I'm not of that mindset at all, that one is higher than the other. I am of the mindset that it's up to what you consent to, and I will explain this. So let's take, for example, people say that equity is the highest law, right? Trust law. Well, if I bring in martial law, that will blow equity out of the water straight away, because you will do what you are told at the end of the barrel of the gun under martial law. So you won't be going to court and getting any equity. You'll be getting a bullet in the head if they bring
Nice.
martial law in. Okay.
Yeah.
So to say that one is higher than the other is not quite true. But then somebody might say, well, actually, no, ecclesiastical is higher than martial law, because that's, the church and God's law. Somebody might say that, right? Ecclesiastical. Well, then I will say, well, what if somebody is a non-believer, meaning they're an atheist?
Right.
They don't believe in it. So how can they state that that is the highest law? So it's not that one is higher than the other. It's what are you going to consent to? That really is the key element of it.
Yes.
So where I move with this is, what makes you under the law is your consent to it. And if you don't have any law, I'm going to bring out this wanted poster. If you don't have any law, you
here we
are...
go. Yeah.
Can you see that?
We can. Bit higher, please.
Bit higher.
There we go. We can see the outlaw word.
Okay, yeah. So that's a poster from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly Western. Now, I'll get rid of that now. So the reason that they were labeled as an outlaw was because they did not consent to any law.
Right.
So so this is where a group of people are able to formulate their own law, i.e. consent. And if you are without law, that's what an outlaw is, without law, then it's hard for you to be able to join a society and live in peace if you can't be trusted with anything. If you're going to rob, pillage, rape, murder, that's what makes you an outlaw. If you are not under the law, i.e. consenting to a specific law.
Yes.
So it is, what I'm trying to get across is it's the consent to it. What are you going to consent to? Not so much as, well, this is higher than that law. That's not really accurate. So now that I've touched on the consent bit, we'll go on to so why is it a good idea to have a trial by jury? So we will look at first question is, why is it that you can only access the common law, i.e. the Anglo-Saxon part of the common law? Why is it the only way to access the common law via a trial by jury? So that's a question that we should ask ourselves. So somebody should ask me, so why is that the way that we access common law?
Well, let me ask you that then. Why is that, Dean, that we can only access that?
Yeah, so the reason is that it's only through that method, i.e. trial by jury, that you can access the conscience of the common man or woman. You see, if you use a judge or a magistrate, they are acting. They are in a capacity of acting. So you are not able to access their conscience. They have got a role to fulfill. Right. So the only way that you can access the conscience of your fellow man and woman is via a trial by jury. And that's a real key element that most people don't even ask me. it's like, well, why is that common law? You know, why is that how common law comes out? Well, because you're able to access the conscience of your fellow man and woman.
And it's more than just one individual's conscience.
Yes, it's a broad base, yes, which makes it law because of so many people, you know, stating it.
Yes, because they're all agreeing this is how we want to live.
Yes.
Effectively, yeah.
Yes, yeah, consent to it.
Yes.
So that's that question asked, you know, why is it that I can only access common law?
So just tell us then the difference, because people get a bit confused, because the powers that be use this sort of very measly words like jury trial, which sounds the same thing, but is very different. What's the difference?
Yeah, so that is in the first video, if we could have a link to it, but I'll explain it again. So it's the French style system. So a jury trial is not the same as a trial by jury.
Right.
Now, I'm sure the awake people watching this know that the system likes to imitate a very good thing and then pass a not so good thing off to the people as the very good thing. For instance, you know, the last name, for example, they give you something that it looks fairly similar, but actually it is not the same at all. And they do this on many levels. Basically, they give illusions of things that are not real.
Yeah.
So I will also go further on that difference between trial by jury and jury trial further on, and explain why they want the jury trial and not a trial by jury. So starting at the beginning, so when you have a trial by jury, the judge's role is only to pass a sentence. So he is not involved in the decision-making process, i.e. the verdict, at all. And that is key, because you are supposed to have what's called a fair and impartial trial. Have you heard those words?
Yes.
So you're supposed to have a fair and impartial trial, right? But you cannot have a fair and impartial trial when everybody is on the same pay.
No, of course.
You know, train. Everybody's being paid by the same same state. Yeah. So you can't possibly have an impartial trial because they're all paid by the same people. And just to touch on this one point is that be careful about the words that we use, because some people will say, oh, well, that's a conflict of interest, right? They will say, you know, the judge presiding over this case, it's a conflict of interest. No, you have to be super careful with the words that you use. It is not a conflict of interest. It is an alignment of interest.
Yes, it is, yes.
Yes, so if I was a magistrate and somebody walked into the room and said, oh, it's a conflict of interest, you can't judge this case, well, I'll just go, no, it isn't, because it isn't a conflict of interest. It's an alignment of interest. So we have to be really careful about the words that we use. Second point, so it is your choice to call upon your fellow man and woman to help protect you against the state. You have that right to consent to it, and you know, don't waver from it. You know,
when you say that, I mean, let's say you've been summoned to a magistrate's court. Are you saying that you can say, I would like a trial by jury, I don't want a magistrate's hearing?
Yeah, you can say that, but they may be obstructive. So I've been in with basically a couple of different scenarios. I've been in with somebody who's got a parking ticket and required a trial by jury, and I've been in with somebody that has allegedly harassed their local MP, right? And on both occasions, they required a trial by jury. Neither of them got it, but in the parking charge one is that they steamrolled over them and carried on with their procedures, but this woman held her position and stuck to her guns and basically said, I don't consent to what you are doing. I require a trial by jury, and held it. And the magistrate, the judge said, oh, I've never had anybody come in and do this. You know, he was amazed. He was looking in his books and
didn't know what to do.
He could not believe. He really was like struggling about what to do. Eventually he, you know, steamrolled over this woman, but we must be able to make it known that we're not going to consent to their system. We require our own system, and we'll be judged by our fellow man and woman if we wish it.
Yes. Am I right in thinking, I know you're going to come into this, but am I right in thinking that one of the reasons that you might be wanting the trial by jury, let's say in the parking ticket, is not only was the fact that, yes, you parked according to their rules wrongly, but the rule itself, the law that said you couldn't park there, might be an ass. So that actually it would be safer for the rest of the people not to have that restriction on that area, so that they can judge the law as well as whether you've broken it.
Correct. Yeah, those jury members can think of anything that their imagination would take them and decide whatever they wish.
Right. Yeah, I'm just getting over the point that it's not just whether you're guilty or not guilty, or whether there's a case at all to answer to, but it may be the reason that you're there might not also, you know, there may actually be no reason why you're there, because the rule that they've applied where you parked your car may not actually be necessary, so they can judge as a jury, and judge and jury can say, well, let's get shot of that rule because it's stupid and it doesn't help us as a society, as a group of people, as members, not members, as people of this land. Yeah.
I mean, we're speaking freely. I won't hold you to, you know, particular words that you're saying.
I know. It's just that people do. They say, "Oh, Richard, you said citizen, or you said society." Is it like, yes, I know, but they're so entrenched.
Yes, yeah, I know that, but obviously I won't hold you to particular words. Yeah,
very kind of you.
So moving on to number 3. So the threshold, i.e., the burden of proof in a magistrate, is very low. So what I mean by that is that it's 51%. So if they can edge from 50% to 51%, they tip the scales
into their favour.
You're guilty.
Right.
If they believe, it's called a balance of probability, and it's 51%. So if you wish to consent to the magistrate process, that's fine. You are free to do so. But just be aware that the burden of proof is so much lower.
Yes.
51%. Right?
The burden of proof from their point of view, presumably.
Yeah, so the burden of proof. So whoever brings a claim, it's usually the government against us, right? They're bringing something and bringing us in. Their burden of proof is only 51%.
Right. Whereas it would be a lot more difficult if it was 80%.
Right. So that's in the magistrate, right? So the magistrate's 51%, balance of probabilities. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Now, if you take it to the Crown Court and get a trial by jury, that burden of proof shoots up to 95%.
Wow. What a difference.
Yes. Yes. So they have to convince up to 95% those jury members, and if they still hold around 5-6% worth of reasonable doubt, then state not guilty, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
Go on.
No. I was agreeing with you.
So that is, yeah. So that's a massive boost, you know, with regards to the burden of proof that they have to exponentially, you know,
To find
convincing about the evidence that's brought against you.
So can I ask you this then? I know there's a bit of a time delay and buffering and stuff, but if I can ask you this, most people, they end up in the magistrates' court for these low fines and, you know, these sort of minor infringements, as they're called, which are not really laws, they're just the acts and statutes having been infringed or violations of nonsense. Can you, instead of going to the magistrates' court and having the balance of probability, can you say, I don't want to do that, thank you very much, very kind of you to offer, but I'd like to go to a Crown Court, and where the balance of probability is a little bit higher?
So if they consider it criminal at the moment, in some manner, i.e. some of the council's tax stuff would be or could turn from civil to criminal, then yes, you could demand a trial by jury. With regards to a parking offence, at the moment, they believe, I don't believe this, but they believe that there is no place for a trial by jury on a civil case. But that was not always the case. As early back as the 1500s, trial by jury was in all cases, not just criminal cases. So yes and no is part of the answer to the question that you asked.
Right. Okay.
It depends on the case.
Yeah. Depends how they deem it. Although you can't sort of escalate it up by having a parking ticket and you go, well, this is only civil. Hold on a minute. Let me just come over here, traffic warden. Now it's a criminal case. But now you go to the court, but obviously the bloke's got a bloodied eye, he's bleeding in the dock, and he said, well, he hit me. He's like, yeah, that went wrong.
Yeah, I think you've gone into the realms where we shouldn't really need to go.
No, right, okay. I'm just trying to illustrate the fact that you can't. It's very difficult then if it's just, say, a parking offence, and you say, well, I want to prove that that's criminal, but they say, no, you've got to go to a magistrate's, and you demand. But as in the case of your lady you spoke of earlier, they just railroad it through anyway.
Okay, so let's say if that lady went to court and she didn't hold this position of a trial by jury, do you think that she would have got any different outcome?
Well, obviously, they're not going to give it to her a trial by jury because they don't want it to go that way.
No,
the balance of probability is in their favour.
Do you think if she'd have gone in there, oh, sorry, I was 5 minutes late, begging, like people may or may not do you think there would have been any different outcome?
Well, no, of course not.
No. So let's imagine that this was done en masse, that everybody went to court and demanded their trial by jury. What a wave that might send out. Even if you weren't necessarily successful in getting one.
Right.
Just imagine the pressure and then the noise and the ripple effect that would make. It would reverberate throughout the judiciary.
Yes.
The people are demanding this.
Yes. No, I agree. Absolutely. I'm on your side on all of that. I think they ought to. I guess most people don't know they can even do that. And perhaps they don't even know that perhaps they go to the magistrate's court. I remember when I went to a magistrate's court some years ago, I'd never been in a court, never knew what was happening, and I was actually quite surprised there wasn't a jury, because I assumed, stupidly, from watching television programmes, that there would be 12 just men standing there, and women, ready to sort of look at my case and go, oh, he looks innocent, oh, he's innocent, he wouldn't have hurt a fly, that bloke, poor old bugger, we'll get rid of him. So I was quite surprised how few people were there. And it actually went in my favour, fortunately. But Yes, so I think a lot of people don't know that there wouldn't even be a jury. So, I mean, part of what this interview is doing is telling people that this is how the magistrates' courts work, and that there are these different courts and they work incredibly differently.
Yes. Yeah. Um, so we've covered the balance of probabilities and beyond reasonable doubt. So they are the two levels, right? So
Yeah.
the balance of probability is down here.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond reasonable doubt is way up here.
Yeah.
51 and 95%.
Yeah.
Okay,
Staggering.
so yeah, so they are the standards, the burden of proof. Moving on to a trial by jury can, as we have just spoken a few moments ago, it can nullify any bad laws or any unjust laws, or take into consideration the circumstances of the case and actually think, whilst we don't believe it is a bad or unjust law, on this one occasion we do believe it is unjust, and we're going to find this defendant not guilty.
Mm.
So that is a very flexible system. Whilst it doesn't negate the law itself, it can be flexible enough to bend and shape itself around particular circumstances.
Yes. No, and that makes a lot of sense. My daughter, on her first trip out driving after passing her test, drove into a bus lane late in the evening and was picked up by a cab. There's nobody around, and she got a ticket. And you could argue that actually there was nobody there, nobody was hurt, no one was likely to be hurt, and she just, because she was a novice driver, inadvertently went into a bus lane. She got out of it very quickly, but she got a ticket for this, which seemed unfair. Now, you might say, well, you shouldn't be driving in a bus lane, but on that one occasion, because of your personal circumstances and you've learnt from it, we will bend the rules. Would you say that
so
that is a fair, a fair assumption of what you've just said?
I would say that would be very fair, and it's not too sort of dissimilar to when a policeman used to give people a caution. He
Right.
would, be on the side of the road, and he would see something that might not be, correct, proper, and he would simply caution him. He would use his discretion. Now,
Yes.
all of that's been taken away because obviously a corporation has no discretion. It only has black or white.
Yes. Our policy is this. There's no budging.
Correct. Yeah. So, touched on
What a
jury.
world, eh? What a world we live in.
Yeah. Oh, and one further thing on this jury nullification thing. So it's called jury nullification, right?
Right.
Jury nullification. With that, there is no need to petition the so-called government or ministers to change the law, because the law will be whatever those 12 men or women in that room say.
Decide.
So.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's no need for months and months of petitioning and, wasting people's time. But the system likes to promote this because it likes people to get down on their knees and appeal or pray to the government, please will you change me this law?
Yes.
When we can already do it via a trial by jury.
It used to work really well then, didn't it? Till they changed it
Oh,
all.
it was fabulous. Till they usurped it with jury trial, which is not the same as trial by jury.
Yeah.
So, moving on to why do the government want us to adopt this jury trial system? Okay, so we have trial by jury. They have usurped in or under jury trial, which is the legal French system, why do they want this one?
Why,
and here's the
Dean?
reason
Let
why.
me ask you. Why, Dean? Why would they
Yeah.
possibly want something inferior and rubbish when we've got something so marvellous that's helpful to all the lovely people of this land, Dean? Pray tell.
The reason being is that if you do not have the option, the choice to judge the law, then you are a slave.
Right.
That's it.
Exactly.
The
And
French-
that's how we have been placed into that slave encampment, effectively.
Yeah, yeah. The French are slaves because they do not have the choice to judge the law, whereas we in England, we do still, even though they, make obstacles for us and, make it difficult, we still have that chance to judge the facts and the law. So we must do it as much as we possibly can before it's taken away from us.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So I believe our rights are like muscles. If you don't exercise your rights, they will wither away, just like your muscles will wither away if you don't exercise them.
I'm glad you made that clear. I was thinking of cockles and mussels, but you're talking about these mussels. Yes. Don't let your cockles waste away either. It's just a, word to the wise.
Any questions on that? As we're going to sort
So just
explain.
explain then the difference between the jury trial. So what is it that this jury trial? How is that different?
Have we just gone back in time? Because I'm sure I explained it about 20 minutes ago.
But you said that it was a French system and what have you. The difference I understand is that the jury come back with the verdict and they all come back. I mean, I've heard, you told me this last time, that the jury came back and only five of them turned up, or seven of them, and five had swanned off down the pub to go, we don't want to be part of this rubbish. And so in the end they said, we've come back to a verdict. Oh yes, there's only seven of you here. What happened to the others? We murdered them because they didn't agree with us. Oh right, what's the verdict? Guilty. Okay. And then the judge goes guilty, and he then decides on the what
Sentence.
happens to you. The sentence, yes. And he puts his black cap on and says, you will be dragged on a hurdle from this court to the place of hanging, whatever it is that he says these days, or take them down.
Yeah. So what was your question?
Well, the question was, is that the difference? Is that the difference? One is, so the jury's only job in a trial jury is to come up with whether they're guilty or not guilty.
Right. So the trial by jury, which is what
Yes.
we have in England,
Yes.
is a jury is able to determine and render a verdict of fact and law.
Yes.
And that is all 12 have to agree that the man or woman is guilty.
Right.
And if one man or woman says, actually, no, there is a reasonable doubt still in my mind, then that creates a hung jury.
Like
Meaning,
in 12 Angry Men, the film.
There you go. Yeah.
But so that's that system. But the trial by jury is,
Okay.
how does that work?
So the trial by jury is what I've just explained.
Sorry, I mean the jury. See, I'm getting confused now myself.
Yeah.
So the jury trial is what? How does that differ?
The jury trial is the French system,
Yes.
and they make it up as they go along.
Right. Oh, is that the difference? I thought
That is the difference.
That is the difference. They just make it up. So they can say only 7 people can come back and go, we found him guilty, and 5 can swan off somewhere else. And then the judge goes, thank you very much, you can piss off. And then the judge comes up with the sentence.
Correct.
Right, okay. And is it possible that during a trial, in a trial by jury, that the jury can be dismissed for a while whilst the court talk about something else and then bring the jury back?
Well, that's a case where the judge, so-called judge, is controlling the actual proceedings, which really they shouldn't be. Basically, they're just a bag carrier for
Right.
the jury. But because the trial by jury is their worst nightmare, they still try their tricks and, you know, deception. So we've got to be aware about it and hold them to the trial by jury and not consent to the jury trial.
When did the trial by jury stop being the first port of call? When did the magistrate suddenly take over from that process?
Honestly, I believe it was when there was something called the courts of assize.
Yes.
So these were changed from the courts of assize to the Crown Courts.
And there was a TV series in the 70s, I used to watch it, called Crown Court.
Yeah, and then further in 1972, when we joined the European Common Market, that was an act of treason.
Yeah.
That they brought in something very similar to trial by jury, put it all out over the media, and it's now jury trial. And then it gets into people's minds and they think that jury trial is the same as trial by jury when it is not.
When it isn't. No, exactly. Brilliant. Yes.
So, any other questions? You happy with that?
No, happy with that one. I didn't open my mouth anymore.
So, yeah, trial by jury is their worst nightmare. And around every 4 years, they will promote, you must vote so that you can make a change, right?
Yes, and we're about to have that coming up, possibly in May. We've been, it may be the election, maybe in May, just to put that out there.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So there are 4 main ways that we change our society. There's more, but there's just 4 main ways, right?
Yeah.
So the first way is through what's called the ballot box, a paper, right?
Yes, yeah.
That's way too slow and it's not very effective because you've got to put your trust in an MP, right?
Yeah. Before you go to the second one,
yeah,
people have often said, I just want to add this in whilst I've got the opportunity. People have often said, we can spoil the ballot paper by writing something else or none of the above or putting different things in. I did a talk the other day and somebody said, quite clever a concept. He said, when you go into the ballot room, we're at the polling station, you go in, you hand over your ID and all this rubbish, and then they give you the little slip of paper with the X marks the spots things on it. You take that bit of paper, but you don't go into the little cubicle. You walk out with it. You don't give it to them back because apparently it messes up the count. Now, if a lot of people did that, I'm not saying voting's even good, but if people did that and they wanted to spoil the ballot paper, but they just take the ballot paper out, if there's supposed to be 1,000 people who've put papers in and only 800 have, and they're going, hang on a minute, we've got 200 missing, it would spoil the count. I'm just throwing it out there. Somebody suggested it, and the whole audience went, "Oh, that's a good idea." Anyway,
yeah, I mean that's working on a presumption that they're going to give you the correct figures at the end of the count up, right?
Well, of course, yes. No, I appreciate that. I just thought I would throw it in as you happened to mention the ballot box. Anyway, so that was number one.
It's a good point. Number 2 is the soap box. So, like a crate box.
Yes.
Somebody could stand in the middle of the square, stand on the box with a little megaphone or whatever, and try and change society that way. That's number 2. So these are all boxes, right? The ballot box, the soap box.
You can't find genuine soap boxes these days, can you? That actually have soap in them or had in them.
No.
And in the old days, they used to have like the Unigate milk crate that you could, stand on. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah,
see
yeah.
those anymore. Anyway, sorry.
No. Antiques they are now.
They are. They're probably worth something.
Yeah. The third one is the cartridge box. So meaning the
A
gun.
gun.
Yeah. Third box, which is too bloody.
Hmm.
Really, it's the last resort.
It's not very
And then
honourable.
no. And then the fourth one is the jury box, which is not bloody. It is very fast. It is super flexible, and it is the only one that is fair. So trial by jury is way better than the ballot box, the soap box, and the cartridge box.
Right. I like your boxes.
Yeah. Any questions on that?
No, not yet. I know you'll test me at the end.
So I got this off a man called Red Beckman in America, and he did a few videos that I watched, and I really liked this idea that he had. And he says there's two types of government. There is a government where the people are afraid of the government, or there is a government where the government is afraid of the people.
Yes.
We currently have the first one where the people are afraid of the government. We need to swap
ridiculous.
it around.
Yes.
Yeah. So that the government is afraid of the people. And this can be achieved via trial by jury.
Yeah.
You
Well,
happy?
can you? Yeah, no, very ecstatic, absolutely ecstatic. When you get your summons to the court for whatever it is, whether it be willful murder or not paying a parking ticket, or not paying a parking ticket and then willfully murdering somebody who told you not to park there in the first place, whatever it is, can you say, thank you very much, it's very kind of you to summon me from the dead and all that, but I'd like a trial by jury, right? Can you request it right at the beginning before walking into the court?
Yes, and that's one thing that would be done. So you would require it at the earliest opportunity.
Right.
Yeah. If you consent to it.
Well, if you consent, yes. Well, are we getting on to what happens if you don't consent to it?
Well, then you're an outlaw.
Okay. But if enough people don't consent to it, they might consent to a different system, which is more honourable than the system we've got.
What? So you're saying that they would consent to having no laws, and then they wouldn't be robbing and pillaging and raping their own?
Well, you don't have to do all of those things. You might only want to rob. You might not want to pillage. I mean, raping is a bit, might not be your thing. I just wonder. So only because you just said whether you consent to it or not.
Yeah, because everything comes down to consent.
Yes.
You could be an outlaw, and people have been in the past. That's why there was their reward posters.
Yes, I get that. But I suppose what I'm arguing is if we know that even if we say, well, I will consent to your trial by jury, albeit that is still open to some shenanigans and horrible things that you will try and disrupt it because you're like that anyway. If enough people said, I don't consent to any of your stuff, and they all went over here, I'm out of shot there, over here, for example, they may then say, look, we're all over here because we didn't consent to them. But what we might consent to is our more honourable system of trial by jury, in which the people doing the convening were not going to have shenanigans going on.
Yes, I see what you're saying, but at the moment we live in a illusion of a democracy where that is called mob rules. So this is why we do these videos, right? To get the word out, to spread out how to protect ourselves, so that more people are aware of, these things.
Yes.
So
yes.
At the moment, this is still very early. Like, we're the trailblazers. We've got to wake up everybody else, or we've got to be there, ready, as you have said before, when those people wake up, and be the signposts.
Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah.
So Now we can move on to how do you get a trial by jury? How do you
Oh,
get a
good.
trial by jury, Richard?
Well, you just, wave your little magic wand, get 12 people in, have a few beers and say, right, okay, look, you can judge me. I'll tell you what happened. It's probably not that at all, is it?
Not quite.
Not
So
quite.
the very basic words are, I do not understand. So that's your default position. If you are ever in court or in any situation, whether it's talking to the police or talking to the council or talking to just somebody that is a stranger, that should be a default setting. I do not understand. And hold it, maintain it, and do not waver off it. The next one is, after I do not understand, is I require a trial by jury.
Like it.
If you was to speak those words in court, that is what would get you a trial by jury. Remember, you would have to hold, maintain, and stick to it, meaning do not consent in any other way. That would get you a trial by jury. I do not understand. I require a trial by jury.
And when you say don't waver or anything, like you pointed out, they can often say, okay, well, we'll deal with this. Go and sit over there. And the moment you do that, you've actually consented. So you need to stand your ground and not do anything other than those things.
Yes, do not be directed by somebody who believes that they are your master. Right. You should be your own master.
Yeah.
So basically, that is it.
That's it.
It is so simple, yes.
And is that what you said? You know, when we left you and people were going, Richard, he didn't tell us what were the words? What were the words? Because you'd come in and you'd said some other words. Can you remind us what words you were saying at the door to the court?
Yeah, so I would say, I, man, enter this room under common law with all my God-given inalienable rights intact. Do we have an agreement? Now, I went over and over and over and over that sentence for maybe 2 or 3 weeks solid, so that I knew. That was just bits that I'd pulled in from learning about other people and what they'd done, and I put it all together. But I realised that it is so much more simple. I do not understand. I require a trial by jury.
So that is it. Yeah, that is it.
Yeah.
Ooh. Sorry about that. That is amazing. Well, that is amazing.
I know, and some people might be disappointed and think that that is an anticlimax. But believe me,
that's such an anticlimax. We're turning over now. Oh, didn't enjoy that episode.
Yeah.
It's so boring. Just went. I don't understand. I require. What is it? I require a trial by jury. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good night.
Yeah, but that took me 6.5 years to boil down. You know, to such a simple format. So there's a lot of work gone into that. And if something is not simple, then it's not usable by the common man or woman. The common man or woman is not going to spend 12 months, 2 years, 5 years learning equity. They're not going to spend the same amount of time learning about ecclesiastical. The common man or woman needs a few words that they can speak, and that is it, if they wish it.
And so, if you're saying, I do not understand, repeatedly, there's no chance that they'll say, you're just a moron. What's the matter with it? Because I think you said that happened to you, in which they're going, well, what bit don't you understand? And they're challenging you on that. But really, what you're saying is, I don't stand under you. Is that what you're laughing at this? But is that not what you're saying? Because you're not saying, oh, I'm sorry, I'm a bit thick here, and I've no idea what you're talking about. It's not that, really, is it?
It's not that, but it is that. The common man or woman used to be like that.
That's true. Some of them still are. No disrespect to my audience, because none of them are watching, who are like, oh, hello, I don't know what you're talking about. That bald bloke. The 2 bald blokes here. Am I seeing double?
You mean the one in the middle?
Yeah, the one in the middle. That's it, yeah. a little chappy here, a little baldy. So yes, so I do. So exactly, and that is enough.
That's
So
it.
would your so going back to your parking ticket lady,
Yeah.
and even though they railroaded over her, would she have got it then if she'd said those words?
She said those words. She
Oh,
held that position.
really worked for
Even
her then.
yeah, even when the security came for me, and took me outside, lynched me outside. But she managed to get me back in.
Bloody.
But the amazement on that judge's face,
Right.
because she held her position, and he's going to remember that for the rest of his life. And
Yes.
imagine thousands more people coming in demanding their right to a trial by a jury. It will send shockwaves through the judiciary that, oh my goodness, the people are learning the law. They're no longer ignorant, nascent bottom feeders. They're learning the law and they're exercising their rights.
Can I ask you a couple of questions then?
Yeah.
Are you consenting by turning up at the magistrate's court?
So, two things on that. If they come for you, like they did with me,
Yes.
you can't consent to that part of it, because obviously it's by force, right?
Yes.
But that's why then, that when they tried to get me in the room, I said the words to enter the room. So they still needed my consent, even though they
dragged you there.
Yeah, because it is a tactic that they use, right? Because they still work on the premise that most of the people are still in the Matrix. They don't understand that a name is a fiction. They believe that that name is that man or woman. So when the police are told, go and fetch this man called Dean, they believe that Dean is the man.
Yes. Yes. Okay, but if you voluntarily, you've had a summons or an invite to attend their party, and you go, oh, I'll go in my best party clothes and look nice, and I'll brill cream my hair, and I'll put earrings on, and maybe a little rainbow thing on the sleeve like that to try and do all the. I'll even give them some pronouns, might give them some adverbs. Certainly towards the end, I'll give them a few things. Are you, if you do all of that, are you consenting to it?
So if you go into the room, how do they know who it is? It could just be some random Joe.
Yes. So
the street.
Probably, yeah. So the best thing to do is dress up like a tramp and wander in there. Go, oh, this is a nice room, isn't it? What's in there then?
Well,
they wouldn't have a clue, would they?
You have to be really careful, because if you don't go in as the person, there is a good chance that they will issue a warrant for the arrest of that person. They'll give it to the cops. And remember, the cops don't know what the hell a person is.
No.
So in their nascience, they will go out and look for a man that is, using that name or whatever, right? So, but when you're in the court, you can say I'm commonly known as. There's a difference between commonly known as and saying I am Dean, right?
Yes.
Basically, I've just said that I'm a fiction. Whereas if I say I'm commonly known as, I've made a much broader statement, and it's not something that I have reduced my capacity to, only something that people call me by.
And could you be, even though, say, your name is Fred Bloggs, and you come in and say, I'm commonly known as Bloggy by my mates, I'm commonly known that. Everyone just calls me, Bloggy or Fat Face, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to use a nickname, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And so when they are, you go in, and they'll, can you state your name? I'm commonly known as Baldy. And because then that upsets them because they need to get jurisdiction from you and they need to identify you.
Well, they need the name, right? So
Yeah.
let's say that they needed the first and last name, commonly known as,
Yeah.
is not stating that you are that fiction. Because how many commonly known as Dean from Buxton's could there be?
Well, exactly. Only
They
one.
need
Well, several.
they might need the date of birth. Now, if you are honest, and you've got to be honest with yourself,
Yes.
you do not know what day you were born on.
No, because I wasn't there.
You were
Oh,
there.
no, wait a minute. I was there. Yes,
You were there, but you weren't able to look at
no,
a
I had no
calendar
capacity. Exactly.
and a time
Yes.
to then go and write it down.
Yes.
So when,
Sorry, Your Majesty. I didn't look at my watch when I popped out. I was a bit busy, startled by light. I can't tell you.
So simply be honest
Mm.
and tell them you don't know,
Yes.
because you don't know. And if
So
you say, go on.
No, I was just going to say, they're asking you all these questions,
Yeah.
which you're struggling not to answer to give jurisdiction away. I mean, I admit I've been a bit sort of cheeky with it, but ultimately you're getting to this point where you say, "I do not understand." Would you do this the minute you walk in? Just go when they say, "State your name." Would you just go, "I do not understand"? Right? Just no other words.
No, I'd say I'm commonly known as.
Yeah.
And then that would probably alleviate the person that they're looking for, but they would want a date of birth. And I would be honest, and I'd say, I don't know the date of birth, and there's no way that you can get it out of me because I don't know.
Yeah. People
So
have told me.
that's
People have told me dates, but I can't tell you if that's true.
Yeah, one question that they may also ask is, where do you live? And if people wish to give this answer, it's an excellent answer. When they asked me, my reply was, I live within my body.
Yeah.
They didn't like that.
I bet they didn't.
No.
Because they want an address, don't they? They want a dwelling or a residence to
Yes.
pin you down for their their flat earth legal system,
Yes.
their paper system.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay.
They-
So,
they-
but I suppose what I'm trying to get to is that they'll ask you these questions, which may or may not get you into trouble, but ultimately you've got to get, at some point you're getting up to the "I do not understand, I require a trial by jury" bit without giving away jurisdiction or consent.
yeah, so you're commonly known as
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
and then you live within your body. But don't lie. Don't tell them a date of birth,
No.
which they're looking for, because you don't know it.
No, I'm really sorry.
I
just
can't
don't
get
know.
that,
Yeah.
more across to people. They will think that they know it, but they don't know it.
No, because you can't possibly know it.
If your mother and father wished to come in and testify to a certain date, that would be reasonable.
Yes.
Obviously, they probably can't, but that's the only way that anybody could testify to that was the date.
So you could go into court then, and when they say the date of birth, and you say, "Well, I don't know it," but hold on a minute, you could get out a Ouija board, and you could go, "I'll see if I can ask Mum because she was there. Is there anybody there? Oh no, it's a bit of interference. Can we go outside?"
Yeah,
No,
not
you
three
can't.
times.
Not 3 times. Bang on the floor. If I was born afternoon. Yes. No, brilliant stuff. Oh, we're coming to the end. I just looked at the time, and the time is gone very, very quickly.
Has it?
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. It's been as ever a joy to you. It's 59 minutes in on the thing. We've got 50 seconds or so. So you do all of that. Will they pass that point, though, if you don't give them a proper name or a date of birth? Can you get to the point where you eventually go, "I don't understand. I require a trial by jury, my friend. Thank you."
Yeah, so they may test you. They may test you like they tested me. How badly does he want a trial by jury? It turns out I flipping well wanted a trial by jury a lot.
So the test was taking you down and making you wait, not sort of asking you what 212s are.
Correct. Yes. How badly do you want a trial by jury? If you will fall at the first hurdle, well, maybe you didn't really want a trial by jury, and they can persuade you any which way that they want.
Yeah. So you've got to be prepared then, quite for a rough ride.
You've got to be prepared to hold your ground.
Yes, but they can't. They can't. I mean, I know you were dragged or taken and all of that, but you weren't beaten up. You know,
No.
they're not. They can't be violent to you.
No, I wasn't beaten up. No, because I was quite nice, even though I was not cooperative.
No,
is it breaking up a little?
It's coming back. Are we back now? Are we back? There's a big
Hold on,
gap.
are we still there?
Yeah, we still are, but there is a huge delay.
Yeah. So I was quite nice, even though I wasn't cooperative. One desk sergeant said to me, he says, "You're the best but worst sort of, person they've had in custody, the entire time that he's been there. So I was the best and the worst."
So you're standing your ground, but be ever so polite and nice, because you don't want any of that thrown back at you. Yeah. Disarm them with charm.
Correct.
Disarm them with charm. Dean, thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy. I hope I never end up in court, because I have a horrible feeling I might make some really bad jokes, and that won't go down so well, like bringing the Ouija board out. Mum's out at the moment.
I think what would be helpful as well is if maybe there were a few sort of shorter snippets of things that they are likely to see in court, you know, and then we could maybe role play. You know, you be the judge, I'll be the unruly, free man coming in.
Silence in court! Give me a wig.
I quite like that.
I quite like that. That would be quite fun. And you, what is your name? You stand before me, quivering in the dock. I give you... Take him down, take him down. Yes, I quite fancy. I must have been a judge in a former life, I reckon. That's why I'm paying penance now.
Yeah. So, I mean, things like that are available for the sort of, future.
Yeah, sounds like fun. Better end it here, Dean. Thank you so much. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you got out of that. I hope my jokes didn't annoy you too much. People often say I should shut my mouth more because I keep interrupting. But hopefully it was enjoyable. And remember, I do not understand. I require a trial by jury.
Correct.
Can't go wrong. And if it does go wrong, it's Dean from Buxton. Get the telephone directory. Every Dean, it's not him. It's not him. Which one is it? Go and check him out. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with more monologues and wonderful guests. But until then, from Dean and I, thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
Until next time, from Dean and I, goodbye.